No one talks about the deep pain of feeling like you never belong. Maybe it started with your family, but then slowly but surely you realize in your schools, with these friend groups, with all of these even extracurricular activities, whether you play sports or art or whatever the case is, feeling like you never belonged in any space that you chose to exist in. It's deeper than feeling like you're not good enough. It's a feeling like you just shouldn't be there. And so then what you end up doing is creating these super curated safe spaces, whether that's in nature or your room or maybe even a little side of the internet. You try to create these super curated, super padded, super crossed off safe spaces. This is the only place that I can really be myself. This is the only place that I can really fully be in my body and express what I want to express. This is something that you think will be cured with, okay, I just need to work on my fear of being seen. I just need to work on my fear of being authentic. But that's actually not the case. It's a lot deeper than this. In this video, we're going to talk about how to begin to undo this deep feeling of guilt for even being here. I'm going to give you an actual somatic exercise, and then I'm going to dive deeper into something that you may have heard a lot of misinformation about, especially from a colonized perspective. If you're new here, hi, my name is Ifákóredé. And right now I'm helping you understand that each one of these demons that you've lived with can literally be turned into deities through decolonized shadow work. Let's dive deep into this topic. When we exit the womb, some of us exit the womb through C-section, or some of us exit the womb through the birth canal. And if you had any trauma within this birthing experience, bam, there's your first root chakra block. Now the root chakra, the Muladhara chakra, can be broken up into two meanings that create its overall definition. The word mula means root, and Dara means support. So this is the roots, this is the support. This is our ability to feel connected to something as well as connected deeply with ourselves. Now going back to birth trauma, if you experience any trauma in your birthing experience, then what happened is you made a extremely harsh transition from the warm, safe environment of the mother's womb into this light and bright space that we see as Earth now. Now that really rocky transition literally can create our first Muladhara block of feeling unsafe because that transition wasn't smooth and that transition wasn't fully welcoming you into this new earth plane. And so literally all you can do is cry. And that's what babies do. They cry out. They cry out for care, they cry out for food, they cry out for comfort. Because this transition from the deep, beautiful, safe womb into this open, bright, expansive earth, if it's not treated with care, it can be our first traumatizing experience. Beyond this, if we have a mother that withholds her love, if we have a mother that doesn't love unconditionally, if we have a mother that rejects us in any way, then the second block is formed. When we are establishing our relationship with our own bodies and with ourselves, we look here, but we also look to our external reality. We look at our relationships with our caregivers as models of how to have a relationship with ourselves. And so what the amygdala does, this part of the brain, one of the first developed or the first developing parts of the brain, what it does is it searches for threats. It searches for emotional and physical threats. It reads faces, facial gestures, any signs that there is displeasing or dissatisfaction within our caregivers, which equals to we are not safe and we're not going to get our needs met. So then what ends up happening is that any rejection that we experience from our mothers, any rejection that we experience from our caregivers, it codes into our brains that we should also reject ourselves. And so then what ends up happening as well is we stop listening to the body. We stop expanding fully into the spaces that we enter. We stop wanting to even exist because we feel like, and we've been given so many messages throughout our upbringing that we just don't belong. belong. And so if there isn't a stable support system, a stable root system with our family structure, with our caregivers, that is directly reflected on how we treat ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. And ultimately, the dominant thoughts of how we feel about ourselves become our personality. They become our identity. And from the identity, the beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, and thus reality is created. Beyond the mother, say you had a great experience with your mother, there's something else that then influences us. Society. This colonial patriarchy especially looks at women, Black and brown people, any type of marginalized folks as a burden, as only a pawn in the system, as only a worker to move around the different resources that ultimately the elite get to enjoy. And so the programming that we get so much every single day and every waking moment is that if you're marginalized, you do not belong. And because you don't belong, you need to shrink yourself. You need to shrink your existence. You need to live a little quietly. You need to follow the rules. You need to fall in line. And so when we look at decolonized shadow work, we're not just looking at how all these blocks may have happened in the family structure. We're also looking at how this white supremacist colonial system also influences how we have our own relationships with ourselves. And so again, if we go back to the Muladhara chakra, we have to understand that this feeling of guilt, this feeling of not belonging, this feeling of being outcasted, if we don't address this, not just internally, but also in how we go about our lives in the world, then we'll never have that connection. We'll never have a sense of stability. We'll never have a restored foundation. And only when we address this foundation can we ascend. Can we actually raise our energy? Misconception in the spiritual community many times is, let's just go to the third eye. Let's just go to the third eye. Oh, I'm going to snort some affirmations and I'm going to go straight to my third eye and my crown. And all that this does is pull you out of a deep sense of connection with your body and with the present. And you're probably going to enter psychosis if we're going to be honest. But decolonized shadow work allows us to go straight to the source and also change our relationship with this entire world. And so how do we do this? How do we restore our relationship with ourselves? What gives us a sense of belonging that no one else can take away from you is your purpose. What is the lifeline that continuously and infinitely pours into you is your purpose. And even if you're sitting here and if you know this, then you're already on track, you're already there. But if hearing those words in themselves trigger you, well, I can't live in my purpose. Well, I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. I don't have this. I don't have that. All of that is colonial programming. When you choose, because if you listen to those thoughts, you are choosing. When you choose to not walk in your purpose, you are cutting off your own life force. You are cutting off your own ashe, your own alignment, and your own abundance. And so when we go deeply into what our spirit has always been calling us to do, when we go deeply into what our spirit is literally screaming at us every single day, it doesn't matter where you are, what job you're in, what schooling you're in, there's something that is calling your spirit. When we listen to that calling and when we step into our purpose boldly, we reawaken and renew the sacred contract that we all have made before we've gotten here. And when you start walking in this purpose, your energy starts opening up. You start becoming so much more unapologetic with your expression, with how you speak, with how you carry yourself, because you have opened up a well of infinite renewal within yourself. This infinite renewal within yourself is your own ashe. And only through connecting with what your spirit came here to do can you restore this link to this infinite well of ashe, of energy, of renewal. And so when we talk about decolonizing your relationship with your shadow and with your Muladhara, with your root chakra, we're also talking about integrating greed. And a lot of people get really upset about this, but of course, you guys know, I think I see things in a very different perspective, so a lot of this is going to be triggering for a lot of people. When we talk about integrating greed, we have to understand that with anything that we see as good or bad, it has this. It has two sides. It has the light side that we have defined as good, and it has the other side of the hand that we have defined as bad. But if I held my hand up to you like this versus I held my hand up to you like this, you would say it was what? A hand still. That means that regardless of what side of the hand that we're on, all of this is still one. It just depends on the perspective in which you're seeing the hand. And so when we think about something like a 7 deadly sin, which you guys know there's a free ebook on all of this below. But if we think about something like the seven deadly sins, we many times see the bad, the one side. But in reality, everything exists within a spectrum. There's two sides of everything, and in reality, they're not even separate. They're always combined. And so when we think about the quote-unquote dark side of greed, we think about depleting your ecosystem of all its resources. We think about people who hoard material possessions. We think about people who hoard money. But when we integrate greed and see the light side, we can see that this seeking of more can actually be used for its opposite effect. Instead of depleting, the seeking of more can be used for renewal. Instead of lack, the seeking of more can be used for abundance for all. And so what that means is when we are integrating greed from a decolonized perspective, it means a redistribution of resources. It means stepping into your purpose, no longer clocking into a system that seeks to deplete us, but instead creating your own systems that allow for abundance to literally be birthed in so many different ways. How can you give abundance to your community? How can you restructure how you're spending your money, how you're engaging with money, and how you're engaging with the marketplace in itself? How can we reclaim our safety through our purpose, but through reclaiming the abundance that first lives here within our own ashe that can be unlocked via the purpose? When we talk about integrating greed, we're talking about a quest for abundance in all forms. And the last Odu of Ifa is Ofun. Ofun, the last lesson of life, is how much we can give back at the same time that we are receiving. And so when you're wanting to walk in your purpose abundantly, you have to ask, what am I giving? Am I giving my best work away for free? Am I doing the things that really uplift my community? Am I existing from this space instead of this space? And so when we talk about integrating greed, we're talking about one, stepping into your purpose and into your abundance, but two, pouring back into your community, restructuring resources, and allowing yourself to be more intentional with how you engage with your possessions and your money. We go so deep into this in the free ebook Black Moon. It'll only be free for the next few weeks, so definitely look below if you want to download that. But let's keep going and let's go into a somatic exercise to really ground you into the Muladhara. So before we go into this exercise, I want to just say one more thing. Decolonized shadow work allows us to see things from not just an individualistic perspective of this is my family, this is what happened with my mother, this is me. It allows us to actually look at how the system affects us and be honest with ourselves about how we also can change the system. I've had so many teachers throughout the years, and I've had a lot of white teachers who have promoted this idea of ignoring everything. Ignoring community, ignoring politics, ignoring what's going on in the world, and only focusing in on yourself. This is colonial propaganda disguised as New Age spirituality. We need to understand that when we see everything as an integral part of this very beautiful whole ecosystem that we all live in, that we don't just heal the community when we look to it, but we also heal ourselves as part of that whole. And so seeing all these pieces and parts and how they move and how they affect all of us and aiming to bring balance not just to our lives but also to the lives of our communities. This is how we restore abundance within our own lives and within the community as well. How much can you give? Because you could only keep what you give away. So when we're able to look at the frustrations and all the things that are going on in the world and really look at the challenges and ask ourselves, how can I be part of the solution? We're not descending in consciousness. We're merging back with the wholeness that has always existed. And so if you want to unblock your Muladhara, which it's always unblocked, but the question is, how can we remove the filters to our own inner connection, which is what the Muladhara is truly about? Join me here in the somatic exercise. Get really comfortable and just start to breathe. Take a deep breath in. Release. One of the less talked about symptoms of a blocked Muladhara is shallow breath. Not wanting to even breathe deeply into your body because you're scared of being here. You're trying to breathe ever so lightly, almost like you'll get caught if you were to truly and fully exist. And so this somatic exercise is what I like to call the balloon breath. It's also called the 3-part breath, allowing our breath to really go deeply into our stomach and then letting out any sound that wants to come out and owning this space. Let's begin with a clearing breath. Deep breath in. Release. One hand over the stomach, one hand over the heart. Deep breath into the stomach, into the chest, into the throat. One more breath in, as much as you can. H-A. 3 more like this, into the stomach, into the ribs, into the chest, a little bit into the throat. Release it all. Into the belly, into the lower ribs, into the chest, a little bit more into the throat. H-A. One more, as deeply as you can. Make this breath the biggest yet. Deep breath into the lower belly, into the lower rib cage, into the chest, into the throat. A little bit more. H-A. Let it all go. For us to address the fear that lives within our bodies, we have to first address the deep-rooted guilt. The guilt for even being here, for even existing. The guilt that society has tried to force us to eat. When we breathe deeply, when we start within the body, reconnecting and invigorating each area of the body through the breath, what we also allow to happen is a reclamation of our own energy. When we breathe deeply, we stop apologizing for even existing. We stop apologizing for taking up space. By breathing deeply and taking up space within our own bodies with air, we start practicing what it really means to take up space in our lives as well. And so the Muladhara is about connection. Connection with yourself, first and foremost. Reestablishing your internal foundation. Connecting with your purpose as a lifeline, as your main source of Ashe. And then connecting with community as the branches of support as well. One more time, deep breath in. Release it all. Feel free to stay in this space for as long as you need. And with every deep breath in, affirm that you are safe now. My loves, if you want to go deeper into this work, I have a free ebook called Black Moon, all about decolonizing shadow work and integrating the 7 deadly sins. We are also doing a live free masterclass called Rebellion, going deeper into this decolonial shadow work. And Genesis, the teacher training on how to guide your own clients through this work, is open now for you to sign up. So I'll see you there. And until next time, Odabo.